For those age 60 and over, one effect of the coronavirus. For those over age 60, the coronavirus is accelerating time, forcing us to focus on the limitations of time. While we put forth our best efforts to avoid this virus, many age 60 and over will get it. Despite the very best efforts of doctors and the latest medicines, the death rates for those over age 60 show that many will die, and much sooner than they expected just a few weeks ago. Not just a few, but tens of thousands. It is time for all of us over age 60 to get serious about life, facing the end of our lives and what happens after we die. The time for making decisions is rapidly drawing to a close. Death will trigger the last factor for decision making. No more time. So where do you want to go when you die? All of us want to go to heaven. Ask anyone. Some will give you a flippant answer, but when they seriously consider deep in their heart where they want to spend eternity, it is heaven and not hell, for there are only two places to go. 3 questions arise on how to get to heaven, and they are: what are the criteria to get to heaven? How do I measure up to those criteria? And who decides or makes the judgment call? This is the process for determining how to reach any goal or destination, such as graduation from high school, getting into college, getting the next higher paying job, or getting your lover to say yes to you for marriage. But there is a 4th factor that we almost always refuse to consider: time. That most precious resource that is ever dwindling. There is always a time limit in the decision-making process. Decisions need to be made within the allotted time frame. For many over age 60, whether they realize it now or not, the coronavirus will make death just around the corner. No one can say they have an unlimited amount of time on earth. Decisions must be made on this side of death. All of us age 60 and older must get serious about this now. Time is always running out, but for us over age 60, time is accelerating. If the Creator God appeared to you today and asked, "After you die, why should I let you into my heaven?" how would you answer the question? This is undeniably the most important question you will ever have to answer, for your eternal fate is at stake. Many will say, "Well, I lived a good enough life, so I should get to heaven." Millions of smart, educated, accomplished, loving men and women all over the earth are absolutely banking and betting their eternal destination on the assumption that good enough people go to heaven. Have you seriously looked at your motives and actions over your life to determine if their sum total equals a good enough life? I mean, really looked at and analyzed it when compared to others. But an even more important question at this point is not whether you feel your life is good enough to get into heaven, but whether the decision maker feels your life is good enough. The evidence you present and depend upon, and that's everything you've done in your life, is what will be judged. In this case, God, whose standard is perfection, is the judge and will decide whether you lived a good enough life. Some of the people that have passed through this judgment were the Apostle Paul, Saint Teresa, missionaries, martyrs, priests, pastors, and even Saint Peter, to name a few. Did they get into heaven by living a good enough life? How is your life compared to theirs? So are you absolutely sure the sum total of your life is good enough? Not so sure now? Not so sure about the answer to the most important question? of your existence? What if I told you that none of these people lived a good enough life to get into heaven? Not one of them. Then how did they get into heaven? But there is another answer to God's question, why should I let you into my heaven? Then I lived a good enough life. And this answer is beyond doubt, it's rock solid and absolute, and it will convince God, the final judge and decision maker, to lovingly and joyously let you into his heaven. But that requires you to evaluate the evidence for this other answer. And once you evaluate the evidence, to make the decision, the most important decision you will ever make. And you need to make that decision now before time runs out for many of us age 60 and older. Please either read the attached document, the decision, or view a video of the decision. Don't put this off. Your eternal destiny depends upon it.